Divorce TV with Wally Marcus, a conversation with a parenting educator with Dr. Marilyn Heins. Support for Divorce TV provided by the Center for Divorce Mediation, 520-577-1202. Welcome to Divorce TV. I'm your host, Wally Marcus. I've been a divorce mediator for over 25 years. Today's topic is a conversation with a parenting educator. My guest is Dr. Marilyn Heins. You can get more information about our program, guests, or contact us with questions at our website shown on the screen. You can also see all of our shows at YouTube, a link also shown on the screen. Dr. Heins, welcome. Thank you very much for being on our first exclusive YouTube show. So we'll see how this all works out.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're an adventurous person, and we can do that. And I also want to tell you, that I enjoyed seeing you at the opera that we saw this last Saturday, which was my first Wagnerian opera, and it was quite an experience.
Well, it was great fun. The Met High Definition Opera is really a great gimmick that Peter Geld is using to bring opera to the masses.
Besides being an opera buff, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes. I'm a pediatrician, and I've been in pediatrics for over 50 years. I've also decided to become what I call a parenting educator about 21 years ago when I left the University of Arizona, where I had been on as part of the faculty there. And what I do is help parents parent. And I'm also a mother, stepmother, grandmother.
You cover all the bases.
Got it all.
That's good. How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing the parenting stuff for a little over 20 years, almost 21 years. I wrote a parenting newspaper column for 19 or 20 years. I have a parenting website, and I do lectures and workshops for parents.
Have you gone to a second generation where you've taught parents of people that were children and now that they're parents?
It's quite possible. It's quite possible, yes.
I've done that actually in divorces. I think I've done 2 generations of divorces over the years. So I guess if we live long enough, we're going to see multiple generations. How do you work with your clients? Is it in person or on the web, or how do you do it?
After I left the university, Wally, what I did was turn to writing and answering personal questions online, and I also answered them in the newspaper column so that the questions would be published in the paper. And people write to my website with individual questions, and I answer them. I don't see parents except when I'm doing lectures and workshops. I did one last night at a local school on parenting in today's culture. So I see and talk to lots of parents there, but I don't see them individually. I do it all by writing.
Let me just remind the audience that you can contact her, Heins, by going to her website at parentkidsrights.com. And you'll see it. We'll show it on the screen too as well.
Good. And I answer individual questions actually from all over the world.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll see where I watch on our YouTube. We get hits from all over the world. So you'll be places where you've been known. But what exactly is a parenting educator?
Well, parenting has never been more difficult, in my opinion, and it's because of the context of parenting. It takes place in a world that, well, let's be charitable. Let's just call it crazy and chaotic and very complex and very rapidly changing. And there's so many bad choices that we and our kids can make. And it's quite difficult to parent in that context. In the old days, your house was really your castle. What you did was the values that you imparted, what you wanted your child to do, you pretty well controlled. Now the world comes into all of our homes on those screens, big screens and little screens. And it's very hard to keep the toxic culture with the toxic values out of our houses. So parenting is very difficult today.
Is that, I mean, you're talking, by saying that people on the web and answer the questions, does that have the same impact that it does if you're, I mean, you saw people on a face-to-face basis as well at one point?
Yes, but when I saw people on a face-to-face basis, Wally, I was a pediatrician in an office, and I was working with both the child and the parent. And when I left the university, I decided, I want to spend all my time with parents. So that is what I do. And I enjoy the fact that the child is not out of the picture, but I'm focusing on the needs of the parents, which I never had time to do before.
Good. What does divorce actually do to a child? Maybe.
Oh boy.
I'm not sure we have enough time to answer that question, but.
No. Divorce is very tough on children. There's no question about it. There are short-range effects and long-range effects. The short-range effects, I call it the 3 Gs. There is guilt, because children always think they're egocentric, and they always think they're responsible for everything bad that happens, and a divorce is something bad that happens. The other thing that kids do, of course, is grieve. They're grieving for the life that they had, possibly their friends and schools, and their towns, because divorce can be so disruptive that the child is in a new location. And then, in addition to that, the other G beside guilt and grief is grades, because there are usually school problems. And if you look at all the problems that can happen to kids, they're about 2 times more frequent in children of divorce than in children of intact homes. Now, that comes to about 20 or 25% of children involved in divorce will show some of these symptoms.
Do you see a generational situation where somebody, once again, if their parents got divorced, they're a higher likelihood that they're going to get divorced when they get married? What's the impact on children when they get married?
Unfortunately, there is a slight correlation, but if your parents were divorced, you're at a higher risk for divorce. But there's so many variables that it's not a clear-cut issue.
You said sort of divorce can be sort of studied as a public health issue. What are the immediate symptoms of it?
Well, the immediate symptoms are the grief with its usual stages of grief, the disbelief and the sadness and the anger, and then the guilt, because the children have to be told repeatedly they did not cause the divorce. See, it's so easy for kids to fall in the trap, because parents every day tell their children, don't do that, or do this instead. So kids are growing up thinking, I wasn't perfect. Of course, they're not perfect, because nobody is, but it can be very difficult for young children to not assume that they were the cause of the divorce.
What about the long-range symptoms?
The long-range symptoms, most children adjust to their lives pretty well, but the long-range symptoms do exist. There was an interesting study that compared children of divorce with children in intact families, and found that when they asked certain questions like, when you were growing up, did you have to take sides? Many more in the divorced family than in the intact family. Many more of the children said yes. One question was, did you feel emotionally safe when you were growing up? And 79% of children that were in families that had not divorced said they felt safe, and only in the 30% of children in families that had divorced.
And what about the next range beyond? What about the effects on society?
Well, the effects on society are interesting, because if we have kids doing badly in school and acting out because of their emotional problems, and feeling sad so that they need counseling or therapeutic help, those are costs not only to the individual but to society.
How many children do you think we're really talking about here?
There's about 1 million kids a year involved in a divorce.